fantastic article from Jason Schreier of Bloomberg. I feel like almost half the articles he writes we cover on the show, but he does
Yeah,
have a lot
it's
of
like we got a
good detail.
bromance.
Well, it's become a virtuous circle for him, right? It's people go to him because they can trust him with these kind of stories, and and then obviously more people go to him, and then he writes great stories, and it keeps on returning.
And
So
he has collaborators on this. So in this particular one that we're about to talk about, as Priya Anand was a collaborator.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he always has collaborators in these stories now versus when he was at Kotaku, it was not as common. So it was a really interesting article. We'll post a link to it in the show notes and then on the YouTube clip as well when we'll cover it. But really, it was giving an insight into Amazon Game Studios, the history of Amazon Game Studios, the leader, Mike Frazzini, who's a VP of
Frazzini
games.
or Frazzini?
Frazzini,
like
Frazzini, I don't know.
Frazzini.
And yeah, he interviewed 30 current and former Amazon employees, so good little subset there. And just really their approach to gaming, the gaming industry, how they want to develop games. And, in a word, it's really, they're trying to build games the way that Amazon does everything else, because their view is their Amazon way and their Amazon process generates the right outcomes. It doesn't matter what field you're in. But I think, things like the Fire phone kind of demonstrate that sometimes those things don't work.
I'm sure there's a lot of internal stuff that never really worked that wasn't even spoken about.
Yeah. And I mean, like, through work, we chat to Amazon every now and then. And, one big thing for them, like Amazon, is trying to do new things and just putting things out there. If they work, great. If they don't, move on. So let the market decide, let customers decide what you like. So what were the big standouts for you, Swinny, in this article?
So they definitely it's a damning profile of Frazzini, really. So
Teeny.
I remember
Yeah.
when it was announced that they're starting, they're moving to games and everything. That I remember a lot of the industry talking quite a bit about it. It was the headline news at the time. No one was talking about this guy, and that just goes to show you that he really had no experience at all in the games industry. He was an Amazon lifer apparently, or is an Amazon lifer, and I think that looking at the history of what they've done, so apparently led the acquisition of Twitch in 2014, which is I got to commend them, was probably the best decision they've made in gaming. I don't know if it's financially been worthwhile for them, but Twitch has only grown and grown since 2014.
Best decision in gaming. That's a big call. Let me
for them. No,
to
for
buy
their
it was a massively
no.
good
I
decision.
mean for Amazon, their best decision.
Oh,
in their
I thought you said in general, but I'm
no.
But pause for a second. Like, to be honest, Twitch is worth probably like $80 billion now, and they bought it for less than $1 billion.
Yeah, so I was about to say, that's what I was saying. It's like that has,
Cheap.
I don't want to say this guy hasn't done anything worthwhile. That was a huge get for them.
No, I'm like stuck on your point now, like, because I love business side of gaming. Your random comment, which you didn't actually mean, that it might actually be like the best decision in gaming to buy Twitch, because no one is even competing against Twitch.
And all the others basically closed down. Microsoft bought Mixer, didn't they? And that didn't really work.
Yeah,
it was a really good, smart decision. So people might shit on Mike, the other Mike, because of all the other decisions that may not have worked well because of his inexperience in the industry. But from a business perspective, he's also made some pretty smart decisions, clearly, when it comes to stuff like Twitch. But also, like, I think it's an interesting one since we're talking about a leader having to have experience in a particular field. I think, generally speaking, absolutely they do, especially with something like gaming. But then, if I think of someone like Phil Spencer, I don't know his full history, but I don't remember him working as a game developer within Microsoft, or he did software, but he didn't really do gaming. Yet he, became the head of the Xbox platforms, I think, didn't he? Or the head of gaming at Microsoft. And he did a bloody excellent job at it. So I think it also depends on the person, on the culture. There's a lot of different things.
I think he came up through the education, like they were doing educational software and stuff. So I think that's
it's different though, right? It's not gaming. So I mean, there's obviously commonalities and stuff like that and key learnings. But what I'm saying is, he wasn't a traditional person that worked as a producer in the gaming industry or anything like that, right? He wasn't a developer in gaming or anything like
Yeah, but
that,
I don't
unless
think
he's
that.
the one that did that puzzle. You guys remember in Encarta, you had that. What was it called again? That maze quest thing where you had
Anyway,
to go through that maze and answer Encarta
I don't
questions.
know what
yeah.
the hell
Anyway,
you're talking about.
the whole
You
reason
can
I
remember
was
that.
okay. The whole reason I was bringing it up, Mike, was because the fact that they went out then and they essentially brought in a lot of big names in the industry
Yeah,
who have all left now. 6 years across that time, that's quite a long amount of time. I'm not saying it's they joined and then left right away, but apparently just trying to conform to the Amazon way of working just didn't work for these developers, and that's what this whole article is about. It's just, by all accounts from these sources, that it just sounds like it's just been a really, really troublesome experience working on game development. And the fact that they've only released 2 titles since the studio began, and both have been taken off sale or delisted. So one is the Grand Tour, so based on the BBC car show, or no, BBC, sorry, Amazon car show.
that's it.
So
Yeah, I know.
actually
Sorry,
played that a
Amazon.
little bit.
Hey, I corrected myself quickly.
Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime car show,
It's on Prime
and
now, yeah.
Crucible, which was essentially basically like an Overwatch style game.
Mm.
They were taking, Grand Tour. I remember when that was announced, it was like, okay, cool. Oh, it's made by Amazon. That's weird. That was the kind of, I think, the reaction a lot of people had. And Crucible has been the only other thing they've actually managed to get out the door, and they took that down straight away.
Which is unbelievable. Like, how often do you see games get unilaterally delisted? You know what I mean? It's kind of strange.
It's very rare.
Yeah.
But see, here's the thing: the games you guys just mentioned. I think ultimately it's not about necessarily that. Well, obviously it's a lot to do with Mike being the head and making the key decisions. Absolutely, but I think what ultimately the real problem is they got a bunch of people who were in the gaming industry, were probably passionate about what they did, put them into a pure corporate environment where it was literally just make games that can make us billions. It's got to be $1 billion game. It wasn't so much make games that you're passionate about, make games that you think people will ultimately find it fun. It was make games that can be $1 billion game.
Yeah.
And I think that mentality right off the bat is just a shit mentality to have for something that in gaming is supposed to be about enjoyment. And you could see they did that because they literally just went out and tried to copy all the popular games that were out there.
Yeah.
Overwatch, copy that. It's such a shit sort of pure business driven mentality to have, that I can see how that would be completely demotivational for the people that work in that business. So if you're a developer and you're constantly being shoved down your throat that we need to make this game because it's got to make money, and that's what the game is all about, you're going to lose your passion for that field. And it's no surprise that people left.
It's not just that. It's also the fact that they went all in on Lumberyard. So they,
and that as well, yeah.
Yeah. So they basically.
Can you explain what Lumberyard? Just give a bit of context. What Lumberyard
Crytek is very well known, like the Crysis games and things like that, and they essentially licensed technology or stuff that they'd been working on to create their proprietary engine, Lumberyard, instead of going out and using Unreal Engine or anything else that's out there in a known quantity. And I don't think that's the idea is not a bad idea for Amazon, such a big company, to create their own engine. I'm saying that's a bad idea. But I know that after a while, it almost became a running joke when I would listen to people talking about the struggles at the studio across the years. It's like, Lumberyard, like, what are they doing? Like, where are the games coming out of this, And I think there's a quote in the article that basically says, like, a common saying was that Lumberyard is killing this company. Like, apparently it was just, it is, they're still using it by all accounts. It's just really difficult to work with. And I know nothing about game development, but just going off that information, it sounds like that was, I don't know if it was just a bad way to approach it, or if they maybe should have started using other engines and then developed their engine over time once they'd established the studio can put out games,
Yeah, can I just say, like, I do feel like the games, and this happens in any industry when there's new entrants. There's almost a banding together of a community to push out the outsider. So if someone comes along who doesn't fit the mold, like Amazon, like taking a very corporate approach, and then people attack them for all the things that they do. It's like, oh, why are they using their own engine? It's like, well, I mean, Nintendo has their own engine, Sony studios have their own engine. Like they started with their own engine. Like that's not an uncommon thing. I totally understand the logic of what people are saying on the counter side, but at the same time, having your own IP and your own special sauce is quite critical as well. And then that generates a special look and feel for your games. And then, with the Mike Frazzini guy, it's like, because he's not from the games industry, it's like, okay, he can't be a good leader for a games company. I mean, like, look at Kurt Schilling. He's taught us that, you don't have to be in the games industry to be,
That's what I was saying at the start.
a very important owner.
Look at Phil Spencer.
But like one thing, like for me, my huge takeaway is it's so interesting that Andy Jassy, who is going to be the new CEO for Amazon, he is fully committed again to Amazon being in the gaming space and keeping the game studio going. Well, no,
Are you surprised by that? Or?
Yeah, no, because Amazon are pretty brutal as well. Like they'll kill things that aren't working.
No, they're brutal. Amazon, no, yeah, but okay. The gaming industry is bigger than the film industry now.
Oh, much.
If you were Amazon, why the hell would you not keep pushing to break into the gaming industry when it's the biggest market by far?
Because they're spending $500 billion each year on it.
They will keep. They don't give a shit. They don't give a shit. Bezos won't care. It's like no, keep spending the money until something works. Okay, guaranteed. There's no way they're going to give up on it.
So I've read and I know a lot about Amazon. Like what you're saying, you obviously don't know anything about Amazon. Amazon is like
not enough to
one of the most frugal companies going around. Like they have money to burn and they do not do that. That's
so
no, I get that.
In the article, they talked about frugal is like one of their corporate values.
Yeah. Look, I know. I read that part too. But all I'm saying is there is no way in hell Amazon are going to give up. I will make a bet with you guys. I will. You can tar and feather me and I will run down Burke Street Mall if Amazon completely pull out of the gaming industry. They will not do that.
I want to take that bet so you do
I'm
it.
happy to take that bet. I know. He's saying ever. I'm happy to take that bet. Now he's thinking.
Probably ever.
Ever. He's going to say ever.
Yeah. I just don't think. I think it's too much of a market for them to go screw this.
We basically can't lose this bet because our
this is going to seriously suck on me.
Yes,
exactly.
Because we can't lose.
You can't. Hang on. This. Hang on. There's not even exactly. So you can't possibly lose. This is all against me now. What's going to really suck is if this thing ever becomes really popular, and like 3 years from now. Amazon released, they go like, we're out of the gaming industry. We don't give a shit about this anymore. And we have like 1 million listeners. And I got to run down Burke Street with feathers on me.
I've literally put in the show notes. Like I press my little button to mark the timestamp.
Okay, that's fine. I said it. It's out there now.
We can put it into the actual notes of the show where Mike is.
Okay. I think Mike's just been waiting for an opportunity to actually make that bet, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Since I was a little child, I always wanted to make a bet that I have to run down Burke Street Mall.
And we haven't touched on it just yet. But before we move on, so one of the games they announced, I got to handle this properly. One of the new games they announced a while back, but it's this MMO called New World, and it was scheduled to be released this year, even last year potentially, but now it's been delayed again. And essentially what the game's premise is, and this is unbelievable, that it's set in basically the 16th century in America. Well, is it America, Swinny?
No,
it's a fictional.
It's like an American setting,
but
it's like an American setting.
Yeah.
And you play the part of a colonizer going into a new world and killing the native inhabitants. This is all correct, right, Swinny?
So, no, the way I look at this is I think that I wouldn't actually take their description as probably the best. I think you need to actually look into what New World is a bit more. But what they've said is basically I think that there was content in the game that people could definitely consider racially insensitive.
Well,
so I think
like
to say that you are a colonizer coming in, no, I don't think it's like that. Greedfall had the same issue.
I was going to mention Greedfall, yeah.
They had the same issue where it's all about how you approach that situation. Because I think there's interesting stories to tell in a setting like that. It's all about it's all about the tact that you take and the approach that you take.
Well, this is off Wikipedia now, right? So set in the mid-1600s, players colonize a fictional land modeled after colonial America in the Atlantic Ocean. Like, and
Yeah.
can I just say it like this, Winnie? So you even called this out last week. So, jump on the YouTube clips if you want to check this out. But Swinny had his final thoughts on Valhalla. And you're like, ultimately, you're playing a bad person, right? Now, the game is not marketed as, hey, you're playing a bad guy. You're playing a villain. You're playing someone who's pillaging and killing and doing all this horrible stuff, are you? Like, they don't market it like that. And I feel like this game, like, essentially, when you boil it down, that's what they're saying the game is about. You go
But
to
you
a
don't-
land
you
and you
don't
kill
know-
the
No,
inhabitants.
but that's what I'm saying is
Yeah.
like you have to know: is your character literally going around killing people, or is it more about doing quests to build relationships? Like, because there's different ways you can approach that stuff, and there's always going to be people that just don't like the idea of any setting like that at all. So I
Yeah.
completely understand.
You know what I don't get either? I'm maybe I've never seen a screenshot that actually shows what this article is even talking about. Like, what are these people? What do these enemies look like? That are they?
You don't
real
You don't
humans?
get, you don't get that impression from the trailer. The trailer's got all supernatural stuff going on.
It's all supernatural stuff.
yeah.
So it's I actually don't want to start any rumors, do anything. I will give them the benefit of the doubt on this, absolutely, because I haven't personally seen anything that shows what the article is talking about.
Well,
if that
I
makes
give them the
sense.
benefit of the doubt because it sounds like they've actually made changes that
And that as well. So maybe they changed all that, took it out.
They hired someone that to come in and advise on it,
Yeah.
and apparently there was resistance to their suggestions and their recommendations at first, but apparently they are taking that on board, and that's
They
probably the
probably
reason
did, yeah.
why it's been delayed.
Again, looking at the screenshots, it just looks like it's supernatural. It's got a very supernatural theme. It just happens to be set in, and it doesn't even look like the US. Looking at the screenshots, I get that it could very sort of broadly have that location setting. It absolutely does, but there's so many parts in it where I'm like, is that really? When you put supernatural things in that context, it could be anywhere. It could be on a completely different planet. So
yeah, but the
I'd be keen to see.
game literally had a code name associated with Native Americans. Like,
Was it New World?
no, it was Renoke or something like that.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, dude.
don't-
Like, the fact that they brought in people and then they themselves said the game's like racist. It's
Oh
got
yeah,
racist overtones.
yeah. I'm
Might
sure.
be
I'm
possible.
sure it had
I
issues.
have
I'm sure it had
again. I can't
issues.
comment. Have not seen
Not
it.
sure if I'm
so-
gonna be fighting on that side of the fence. I'm gonna move my video like screen onto one side and put you two on the other.
No, what I'm saying is, I think that it sounds like they've made changes to make it less insensitive. So I hope they live up to that. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, look, again, my context here, I feel like very much this is a case of you build something and then people put it into a different context and you're like, oh, I guess it does sound bad when you say it like that. But you're not making it with that mindset. Like, I don't for a second think they're making this like, oh, let's kill Native Americans and do all this stuff. Like, no one in their right mind would make a game like that. But could
No.
you kind of accidentally make a game like that? I could totally see that. Go
Yeah,
in, colonize, do this,
Yeah,
negotiate.
it's called Custer's Revenge. let's
Yeah,
remake.
again, I don't know.
Let's
I've
remake
seen-
Custer's
yeah.
Revenge.
All right.
See how that flies in 2021.
All right. Do you want to move on to the next story?
Let's do it.
All right. Cool. Yeah. So